Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here with another of our 12 by 12 series. Okay, we're going to address the page that you don't really want to use. That whenever you buy a pad of 12 by 12s, at least I find there's always a couple of pages in there where it's not quite your style, it's not quite your thing, and I've chosen this page because although there are elements of it I love, I like that bit, I quite like that text down there. That teacup doesn't rock my world. And this, I don't know why that just doesn't work for me. I like this bit, but would I go in and cut this into individual pieces and use them? No, because what would happen is then I would sit them in my ephemera box and I'd look at them and I'd never get around to using them. So there's another benefit to using this page as well. I like the back of it. And that means I don't actually have to back whatever ephemera I create on the front because it's already there, which means I'm not adding another layer of paper on top of the other layers of paper I'm going to have to add anyway. So I'm just going to address this. This could be any sort of paper you wanted. It could be any shape as well. We're working on 12 by 12, so this could be an 8 by 8, it could be a 6 by 6. Now, later in the video, I'm going to be putting a template on here to show you what sizes I cut. I'm going to leave it on screen for a little bit of a while, just so you can take a screenshot, because I can't work out of any other way to actually give it to you. If I was to put it onto my website as a free download, what happens if this is being viewed in 15 years time and my website isn't there any longer? I'll be having a link that goes somewhere where there's nothing there. So at least this way I've got it all in one place. So what am I going to do? First of all, I'm obviously going to cover this in book pages just to give me a good sound background. Now, where sometimes you sit down and actually fussy cut while you're watching a movie or TV, I tend to sit down and tear the borders off my pages. Let's just see if I can grab a page that's got a border on it. Okay, so I would sit down and I just use my tear ruler. I'd just tear off all of the edges of the pages because I know I'm going to have to do that anyway, and it's a mindless task, which means I don't have to think, so I can pretty much get through about a whole book in the time it takes to watch a movie, or I just do it. It's just easier than when I grab it. I'm being more creative because I'm enjoying the process. I'm not just tidying up as I go along. So I'm going to start with this. We've got our normal things. We've got a glue stick, a couple of spreaders. I've also got a tear ruler, but I'm not sure I'm even going to need the tear ruler because I've already done that bit. And I've got my glue book here as well. So I'm just going to talk and chat, and we're just going to keep this going. I'm just going to completely cover this. Now, I'm not caring. This whole process is about not thinking, really. This is just getting the stuff done. This is a bit of a mass make. It's something I do quite often. I've done it for several years. I'm not the inventor of this technique. I'm certainly not the first person to have done it, and I know hundreds of other people have done the same thing, and there's probably 100 other videos out there of the same thing as well. But hopefully you'll see something in my version that is maybe a little more unique than something you've seen in another version. We never know. I try to give credit where credit's due, but seriously, there is no credit going out to this one. It's not like I've seen it somewhere else. Who was the last person I think I saw doing this? I think Rachel from Roxy Creations might have been the last person I actually saw a video doing this with, but I can't remember. It's a while ago. But as I said, I just do it. Now, any book pages you see me do here, fold over, whichever way I do it, they go into a box, and then the box is actually utilised later when I use more book pages up. So hopefully everyone's doing okay out there. You may be asking yourself, why is he doing such a simple video for 12 by 12s? Because I know a lot of you want some tricks and tips for using up ephemera. I'm doing it because, you know what, guys? We may have been on this journey for a while, but there may be one newbie in our bunch, one new subscriber who's just starting the joyful world of junk journaling or making ephemera. Like we all are already on that journey, and this person is here for the first time. And so I try to mix things up. I will do some more complex stuff in the future, and I've obviously done a few complex things prior to this as well. But it's just about basically touching base with people and making sure that I don't just steam ahead and do stuff that people think is really complex and can be a bit intimidating. Okay, I don't mind if pieces overlap. I'm going to put a piece right in the middle there. I'm trying not to build up too much thickness of book page, purely because I know when I use when I create journals, if there's a whole load of thick ephemera in them, it really bulks out the journal to the point where then the new owner of the journal may not actually have any room to put their own stuff in and have to start taking stuff out of it. So I'm trying to be very conscious that a journal is meant to be there for recording memories and stuff like that and events. It doesn't necessarily have to become a repository for all of your artistic endeavours, just to so the person receiving it is only got room to put your stuff on display and not their own. Mind you, to be honest with you, when I've had a journal in the past from someone else, I will usually go through and take quite a bit of the ephemera out, put it into my own stash if it's not in the theme that I was going to use the journal for, and I just do it that way. So just as a thought, don't always pack your journal so full that the new owner, whether it be gifted or purchased, can't actually use it because you've got too much in it. There's not enough writing space. It looks stunningly beautiful, but some of those big journals can actually be a little intimidating, because I know when I first started journaling, I was absolutely terrified to write on a page because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to spoil the journal. But then over time, I realised that actually journaling isn't for anyone except me. I mean, granted, someone may pick up the journal in the future when I've shuttled off this mortal coil, or shuffled, I don't know what I'm talking about there. But you know what I mean? So someone else may actually get it in the future, and they may learn a little bit about me or about the period in which I lived. So I don't know. I mean, but to be honest with you, I hate my handwriting. So for me to write something down has always been a little bit of a challenge as far as journaling, because I'm someone who types. I'm someone who uses an iPad or a laptop, or I print stuff out. And I was very tempted when I first started this that, oh, shall I just type all my entries up and then stick them in? And a very good friend of mine said, don't do that, because what I'm doing is I'm destroying my own character and what she meant by that was it'll look great, but it'll just be like any other book. It won't have my personality written into the pages. And I thought, okay, that's a valid point. So yeah, I had to be brave and I had to get out there and just do it, to be honest with you. But yes, I did find journaling intimidating, and to this very day I'll journal and there's always bits where I go, oh, I wish I hadn't written that, or I wish I'd written that a bit neater, and I quite often stick a bit of ephemera or something over something I wasn't happy about, and then maybe put a tag next to it. I've had another piece. I did have another piece. And then rewrite on that. But you know what? That's just my nature. I'm OCD. I like things perfect. And you can't always have perfect. In fact, it's probably an unhealthy way to be, is living, trying to be perfect all the time, because it's unachievable. So, right, a little bit of a gossip from me, and that's that covered. Now, that in itself is just a plain background, a canvas that I can do anything I want upon. So, this is a good time to think about, right, what have I got in my stash of stuff to use? What do I want to use up? Excuse me a minute. Sorry. Bit of a tickle in the throat. What do I actually want to do? So I'm actually going to use some napkins and some tissue paper. So let's see. Right, I've got this bit of tissue paper here. I'm going to take some pieces of this and just put it down on this page. Now, I'm not thinking about it, okay? I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm just not even being that careful, to be honest with you. As you can tell by my fingers sticking to this all over the place. So just going to take some random pieces. And again, I'm going to use my glue stick, because glue stick is fine to use with tissue paper, because it's it's a bit more resistant. It's not like napkins, which I'll be using later on, but we'll use in with a different sort of glue than the glue stick. You can do napkins with a glue stick. I tend not to. Do I care whether there's wrinkles in any of the tissue paper? No, not in the slightest. If that's the way the tissue paper wants to go, that's the way the tissue paper wants to go. I like my mixed media, so a little bit of texture never threatened me. And if I really don't like the wrinkle in the page, I can just cover it with something. So, right. Now I'm being quite conscious to get right to the edges, because when we cut this up, I haven't got any waste, if that makes sense. Whatever's on this page is going to be used. So it's just a bit of a clean glue page, because goodness knows everything will stick like heck to a sticky glue page. So, and tissue paper is notorious for sticking to glue pages. So let's put this over here. As I said, no rhyme or reason, guys, just sticking stuff down and smoothing it out with my smoother afterwards. You don't have to use a smoother, you could use your fingers. I just find my fingers are usually so sticky, I can't do it anyway, because it just pulls everything back up. So that's a little bit on the background there. Right, what was the next paper I wanted to use? So I do have a pile of paper that's over here that I just used. Right, this is another bit of gift wrap. Let's take a strip of that off. I try not to get too paranoid about straight edges, but sometimes I'm like, you know, sometimes I just need to get rid of the straight edge. I think I'm going to have to reach for a wet wipe in a minute, because my fingers are seriously sticky at this point. Wet wipe on the go. There you go. Man's best friend, a wet wipe, or a damp face cloth. You don't need to have wet wipes, guys. Just, I mean, I know when I was being raised in the 60s and 70s, any mother with a child usually went around with a bag with a damp flannel in it, or damp face cloth. Back then, it wasn't really wet wipes you used. It was just a damp face cloth, a damp piece of toweling, and then what happened is they went in the washing machine, or they were washed by hand. Well, certainly washed by hand in my family. We didn't have a washing machine for, I don't know when we first had a washing machine. Actually, I do remember as a child, it was my job to be out there on the mangle. The mangle is, for those of you who don't know what a mangle is, it's basically like a giant pasta machine for clothing. You just used to put your clothes in there, wring them out as much as you could possibly do to get all the moisture out of them. And then you used to stand there and wind the handle around when your mother fed the washing in, and it squished all the water out, or most of it, and then onto the line it went. Oh, the joys of childhood, I tell you. Right, let's put that in there. I don't mind that straight line there. I don't know, it could become a cut line, it could become anything. So there you go. So anyway, that's my view on wet wipes, and I actually probably think that the whole damp towel in a little bag was probably far better for the planet than the amount of wet wipes we use. And I speak as someone who uses wet wipes. I know I'm not perfect, and I reach for them purely for convenience. But then, you know, they're there and I use them. I probably save the planet in other ways, let's put it that way. Right, just clean off some of the glue off my fingers again. Right, now I wanted to have another little bit. I quite liked this. I found this in my local gift store, and I really liked this because I was tempted to actually stamp onto this background, and then when I found this I thought, you know what, let's just stick with using the tissue papers I'm using. So again, now I'm going to, oops, sorry, knock that out of view. I'm going to rip the edges off this because I've got a few straight lines happening in here. I don't mind a few, I don't want them all over the place. You'll also note I'm doing things in threes. That's just me. You don't have to do them in threes. There are no rules to this, guys. You just do what you want in the way you want to do it. So, oops, folded tissue paper over. And not the glue stick over. It's not going to be a good day, is it? Right. If there is one thing I do kind of do, is if there's any tissue paper or stuff that's got straight lines on it, as the script is here. Let's turn this around so I can work down here a bit better. I try to keep anything that's lined or has a design that has verticals or horizontals in it, I try to keep them vertical or horizontal when I stick them down on the page. That's not overly necessary. It just happens to be the way my mind likes to look at design. So, as I've said before, and I've said it many times, when it comes to being creative, there are no rights, there are no wrongs. It's just up to you what you wish to do, and no one really has the right to judge you except you. Mind you, as I've said before, I think I said it in an article as well, we're probably the worst judges of our work because we're always hypercritical of it. So there you go. So we're building up a bit of a background. Now, I'm trying to not make the background so complex that I'm actually not going to be able to look at it or put anything onto it. So I need to make sure there's space on the background. Right, one more little bit of tissue paper. This is another one. I think this was actually wrapped around something that the lovely Gail Augustinelli sent me. And being a crafter, of course, I saved it to be recycled. So thank you, Gail, for this contribution to this video. If you don't know who Gail Augustinelli is, I reckon you look her up because she's a wonderful woman and she's very energetic with her video making, very supportive of her subscribers and her followers, and she does a lot to help the newbies on the way, to explain things in depth, and she's very brave. She's one of these people that has a go. If she's never done it before, doesn't stop Gail. She turns the camera on and off she goes. And I'd like to say I was that brave as well, but sometimes I'm a little nervous of that sort of thinking. So this glue page is getting a little bit sticky here. So there you go. So this eventually will create 10 pieces of ephemera for me, which when you reckon I'm literally using up what a lot of people would probably regard as scraps, I think that's a good expenditure of my time and my effort, to be honest with you. 10 pieces of ephemera, that's not bad going. That's, say it's a single signature journal you're doing, that's probably about half of the ephemera you would need for the entire journal. So stick that there. You'll also notice that when I put my pieces on, I'm thinking horizontal and vertical, but I'm not thinking of any relationship because once I've done this, I have no idea what direction the cards or tags or pockets will be used in. So I do tend to rotate my stuff as I'm working. So I'll give it a quarter turn now and then. And when you see me doing mixed media stuff, you'll see me do that quite often. I do tend to do a little bit of turning the page around. It just helps me be a little more random because with my OCD, everything has to be perfect and spaced and everything. Whereas working a little quicker for me personally and turning my page around helps me with that. Okay, I think we're at the stage now where we need to look at using the bits of tissue paper I was going to use. So I'm going to put my glue stick by because that's no longer needed at this point. I'm going to get the bit of sticky glue out of my way. One last bit of a wipe of my fingers so I haven't got that going all over the place. So this is where we're at with this. Now, at any point, you could stop, okay? You can keep going. You can do whatever you wish at this point. At any point in this, it is yours. You don't need to match the papers and tissues I'm doing. You just need to do something. So I've got two tissues I'm going to use. This one's got some butterflies on it, and this one is got flowers on it. Now, I've just bought these in my local supermarket or greengrocer store. They're just ones that I actually have found out there that I like a lot. Now, when it comes to taking the backs off, I tend to wet my fingers just a little bit, and I pinch it, and then what that'll do is it'll pull it apart. Or have I already done this? Maybe, no, I haven't. There you go. There's a bit of a torn edge. Now, it'll depend on your napkins as to how many plies, and by plies I mean how many sheets. This, the almost transparent one, is the final one. This only had one ply ahead of it. These can be kept for other things, so use them if you wish. This one, I want to say, is a single ply as well. Oh, actually, no, there you go. There's one ply, there's two ply, and there's the third ply. Let's put that down for use later. Now, there are different ways to actually tear apart napkins. Now, I know from experience with this one, these butterflies at the top don't always translate well. So I'm just going to tear them. Now, I tend to just put my fingers and thumbs together and I just tear it. You could take a damp brush or a water brush and actually draw lines around things. And then what that would do is where the water was, it would tear. But this is just the way I like to do it. So I think it's probably just because, to be honest, I'm a little bit lazy. I don't want to be messing around with a water brush or a brush with water, especially around paper, because I can be a bit of a klutz and I can drop stuff. I can knock stuff over. I think, like a lot of us, I get a bit distracted and sometimes I'm not fully aware of my surroundings. And before you know it, I've knocked over an entire glass of water or a jar of water. And guess what? I dropped it directly onto the project I'm working. So there you go. There's some butterflies done. Right, let's take a couple of these flowers out of here. I quite like this flower with the bee, to be honest. Flower near the bee, should I say, not the flower with the bee. Now, we're not thinking of these as ephemera. These are all just part and parcel of the background. Okay, so don't get hung up on it being a completely whole image. It doesn't need to be, because when we start cutting this apart, it's probably not going to be a whole image anyway. I'm not going to put the bee in there after all, I've decided. So there's one. Let's see. I've got yellow on here already. Actually, this little one's yellow, but it's cute anyway. So let's take that one out of there. Someone called, what's her name? Diane Reevely. Diane Reevely is often said, remember, a background is a background because it's a background, and she is so right. Absolutely so right. Do I want that little one there? I think I do. 1 second. I might put that one on the side, you never know. So I've got my elements here. Now, for me, I'm going to use Distress Collage Medium. This is by Ranger. Tim Holtz promotes it. I think it's Tim Holtz's design anyway. I like it a lot for this. You could be using several other things. You could use PVA glue. You could use another collage medium. You could use Mod Podge. You could literally put your glue stick directly onto your page and then stick your piece down on top of it. That's not the sort of thing I want to do. I want to actually just use this. So I'm going to use my wide brush and I'm just going to come in and put a coating of this on where I think I want things to be. Let's just take that butterfly off there. And I'm going to smooth them down from the center outwards. And I'm not being specific as to the direction they've gone in, they're laying in. Because as I said before, I don't actually know which directions this is all being cut in, and I do like to overlap stuff underneath because that gives me a bit of visual interest. Let's give it a bit of a half turn. Now you don't need to use everything. I'm possibly not going to use everything because there seems to be quite a bit on this page already, although this does look like it needs something down there. There you go. Now, if when I cut this up, I've got part of a flower on one and part of a flower on another, I've got a leaf in one corner, I've got another leaf in another corner, it doesn't matter. And if it really, really offends you when you're trying to create your piece of ephemera, you can just cover up that piece. I mean, you can just, once you've cut this into the pieces you want, you could just go in and actually go, you know what, I want to add another bit of tissue paper to that, or I want to add another bit to here or another piece to there. So don't think that you can only do one thing. This feels too big to me. I'm not putting that on there. I want to come in and let's do it this direction. I tend to want to line things up, so let's take that bit off there because I don't mind having parts of flowers, but only parts of flowers if they've been cut and then just stick random pieces down to start with. That's that bit there. I would like the bumblebee on here. Let's stick the bumblebee down somewhere. I think by there it might work. Come in, Mr. Bumblebee. Let's put you down by there. So I hope you're enjoying this series of videos. If you are new here, welcome. I do have other videos obviously on this channel. Things like mass makes is a very popular one where I will actually just mass make. We will build up our stash of ephemera. I enjoy doing those because it's literally something I do a lot. I do find that I go through quite a lot of ephemera, and it's always good to be building up more. It's so much easier to journal or to create journals if you've already got blank ephemera ready to go. And then all you need to do is just put the accent point on it. One of my favourite bits is the decorating, I must admit. I think I want to just put one more butterfly down here, just because I tore him out, so he's going on here. Now this could be anything, remember, I've just stuck with nature here. It doesn't have to be nature. Right, as soon as you finish working with your collage medium, I like to wrap my brush in a damp baby wipe or damp cloth, purely because I want to make sure that it's not going to dry out on me. Now my next stage is a little odd to some people, is this is cling film in this country. It could be saran wrap, plastic wrap, could be a plastic bag, could be anything along those lines. And I tend to come in and I'll lay a bit of plastic over the entire thing. Right. Now what this means I can do is I can smooth everything out without having to worry about picking pieces up. I also know that because I'm doing this, what it will do is it will press flat any of the little pieces, like if there's a bubbling effect under the tissue paper or under the napkin. And when I do decoupage onto bottles, I will do this method as well. I just think it gets all of the air bubbles out from under the under the napkin especially. Now once you've done that, you do need to be careful at this point, because of course we put glue over the top. So when you're taking this off, just be careful. If it pulls a piece up, I'm not overly worried about that, because what that means is that piece had an air bubble in it, so that's probably going to have come up eventually anyway. So let's just pop that bit back down and that bit back down there. Right, so having a quick look round, that's my piece done. There you go. So now I've got this, I now need to let this dry. So I'm going to put this to one side, and actually I have one already done and dried. See, there's one already done and dried because I didn't want to hold the video up. I'll cut this one up for myself later anyway. But this was just what I wanted to show you the process, because I do like to show you end-to-end processes whenever I can. So let's put this one by. Oh, it's going to bug me. Excuse me a minute while I just get in there with... Well, actually, I've got the brush of glue, haven't I? There you go. There's nothing that can't be fixed, guys. And it happens to everybody. So, right, let's put this one over to one side. Let's put it down there. Now, this is the one I did earlier. Boom. I tried to keep all of the stuff relatively the same, but I tried not to match it because that would be an absolute impossibility for me to do. However, when I cut up stuff like this, and I said I do this regularly, I like to create myself a template to know how I can best utilize my 12 by 12. So I'm now going to put the template or thing on screen for you. And I recommend you do a screenshot if you can. This is how I cut up my piece, and we're going to be using this not only as a guide, I'm going to be using this to lay stuff down on as well, and I'll explain why I did that as I go along. So I'm going to leave that there for a few seconds for you to actually take a picture of. Okay, have you taken your picture? So I'm just going to put this to one side over here, and I'm going to bring it in periodically just to explain what I'm doing. Okay, now I know that my first cut, excuse me having a big old guillotine, I love this guillotine. I'm not very good with trimmers, so for me it's all about a guillotine. So, right, I know that the first cut I've got to do is 6 inches by 4 inches, so I want to cut 4 inches here. So I'm going to look at my page and find out where I think 4 inches is going to fit best. Actually, I had this in mind anyway, so let's go this way. Right, so I'm going to bring this in, and this is going to be a 4-inch cut. Okay, now when I've got my template next to me, I'm going to lay this on my template. And I do that so I don't lose the orientation that things are going to be in. I know this one needs to be cut in half into a 6. So I'm going to cut this into a 6 and a 6. And again, I'm going to lay them on my template. So there you go. I've got them laid on the template there. It's very easy when you're cutting bigger pieces to lose the orientation of them. And this just helps me. Now I know this one needs to be cut into 6. So let's come in here and I'll put that back on my template. Now this one, which is in the top right corner, I know that I've got a 3-inch tag to come out of one side of this. So let's lift that up. So that's a 3-inch tag. And each time I'm laying the piece back on my template so that I can keep track of what is what. Now this is now 6 inches long, so I need to cut this into 3 2-inch pieces, because these are going to make tags. Unfortunately, it probably means I'm going to cut the flower in half. You know, that's fine, because I've got a little bit of floral on each of them. And again, I'm going to lay them back on my piece of template. Then the last one, I need to cut this half this way, which makes it, yes it is 8, is 4. Then I need to cut these into 3s. And again, I'm going to lay them back on my template. It's just purely the way my brain works, guys. It doesn't have to be this way. It can be exactly the way you wish it to be. So let's get rid of the old guillotine, old being the operative word. But I do love that guillotine. So now I've got my template next to me and I've done everything absolutely the way I wanted. I know it all fits in. So there's a couple of things I now need to do. If I go and find the stuff I need to do. From here on in, I can just remove them from the template as I do them. So I'm going to use, which is the corner I'm going to use, the 7mm corner rounder on here. Your choice as to what you do. So I like to round the corners of my journal cards and my pockets, purely because if anything gets caught up in the pocket or I'm sliding it in or out, corners are likely to get caught, but they're not if they're rounded. So these could be big pockets or they could be big journal cards. I know I've got a lot of pockets already, so I'm going to turn these into journal cards. You can pick these up on the internet, and there are other versions of this, so don't think it has to be this. Right, I know these are meant to be 4 journal cards, so a bit smaller, so I'm actually going to use the little one, which is the 4mm one. Just because I just want that little delicate rounded corner. I find if I do a bigger corner, it takes away the cuteness of it. That's one. That one didn't cut. Why aren't you cutting? I sometimes struggle with corner punches. They don't always like to play. Sometimes they decide it's not the day they're going to cut. There you go, I've got that one in the end. Yes, I'm cutting over my template. There is actually another reason I'm doing that, because you're probably thinking that's making a heck of a mess, but I don't feel that way. And I'll tell you, well, that's quite cute, isn't it? The bee right in the middle of it. And to think I nearly didn't add the bumblebee. Right, when it comes to the rest of these, they're all tags. Okay, so now I could round the bottom corner. In fact, I will round the bottom corners of them. So let's have a look. Which way up do I want this? I'm going to go this way, even though the... Why are you not cutting today? Are you having a moment on me? Right, I don't mind that the butterflies are sideways. I can work with that. As I said, if there is something that really doesn't work for me on a tag, I can actually just come in and do a piece right over the top. Like with this one, this is the way the tag is, but the print is upside down. Do I care? Probably not. Right, so that's all my corners rounded. Now, when it comes to cutting a tag shape, there are a couple of ways of doing it. I mean, I've made one of these, which is out of an old store card, and I've cut angles on them, and I use them to cut the angles of my pieces. Although you could quite easily do something like, and you've probably seen this done before, let's move this over to one side, is you cut the angle of your choice, you then take that piece up, hold it onto the other one so it's a template, and then you just snip along the edge, and then that gives you your tag shape. I quite like using this gadget because it means that everything is uniform, and I like uniformity. So I cut one, I turn the tag over, and I tend to cut it from the other side, and that way I know both of them are even. And I don't put the holes in the top of them until I'm actually starting to create the ephemera, because I don't know whether I want a sewn in tag or I want a hole to put something through, or maybe I don't want anything in it. I just want to leave it as something that's in the tuck spot. So, right, this one's a bit bigger, so I can use a larger corner on it. Line it up. The reason I like to use a plastic store card or a key card or something is because if this was a cardboard piece that I was using as a template, which is what I used to do, every time you cut, sometimes you shave a little bit off, and that's not a good idea. So the reason I like this is, guess what? This template has now got all my bits on it. I can just pick this up and shake it into the bin. This goes back into my 12 by 12 stack, so therefore I've got it for the next time. So one last time, if you've not seen what's on this page, this is what it is. So what did I make in total? I made a tall tag, I made 3 smaller tags, I made 4 journal cards, and I made 2 large journal cards, which could actually be pockets. If I had a larger journal, I could cut a notch out of that. So there you go. That's how I will use my, I don't want to say ugly, but the pages in a 12 by 12 that I actually don't want to be using because they don't work for me. They're not my style. So, and that can be done with anything. It can be done with any themes whatsoever. When I turn this video off, I am going to cut this one up, because then that will give me twice as many. And you saw, I mean, this entire video is only about 40 minutes long, and I've talked and explained and stopped and started, so you can do these relatively quickly, and they're definitely a good way of building up your stash. So hopefully you enjoyed that. This is my social media and where you'll find me, the avenues to everything. I'd love you to like me, share me, subscribe to me. Positive comments are always welcome. I will always answer comments. Sometimes it takes me a little time to answer the comments because I'm really busy, but I will always give you an answer to a comment, or even if it's just a hello or hi, or send you a little love heart or something, I will always do that. Just you need to give me a little bit of time to do it. So hopefully you enjoyed this. This is me. I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. Signing off until the next one. Bye bye now.